Commander Jake Sullivan sat in his chair at the Sol Defense Force Command Center. The coffee in his mug had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't care. His eyes stayed fixed on the computer screens showing the outer edges of the solar system. Something was wrong. The sensors beyond Pluto were picking up strange readings. "Sir, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her station. She was the best communications officer they had at Luna Base Alpha. Her voice was steady, but Jake could hear the worry underneath. Jake walked over to her desk. On her screen, hundreds of red dots moved slowly toward the inner solar system. Each dot was massive, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They were coming from deep space, from the direction of the nearest star systems. "How many?" Jake asked. "Over 200 ships, sir. They're still too far away to get clear images, but our computers estimate each one is at least 5 miles long." Jake felt his stomach drop. These weren't human ships. Earth had maybe 50 spacecraft total, and most of those were small research vessels or cargo haulers. Nothing like what was showing up on the screens. "Get me Captain Bennett on the secure line," Jake ordered. "And patch me through to Dr. Parker, too. We need to wake up the Defense Council." While Amy worked on the communications, Jake stared at the moving dots. They were coming straight for Earth. Not deviating, not slowing down, just heading directly for humanity's home planet. It wasn't exploration. It was invasion. The first alien message came 3 hours later. Amy's equipment picked it up easily because the aliens weren't even trying to hide it. They broadcast on every frequency, making sure everyone in the solar system could hear. The voice was mechanical, clearly translated by some kind of computer. "Primitive species of the third planet. You will surrender immediately. We are the Korathi Empire. We have conquered 17 worlds. Your resistance is pointless. You have 72 hours to submit, or we will destroy your cities." Jake looked around the command center. His staff was staring at their screens, faces pale. Some of them had families on Earth. All of them knew humanity's space fleet was nothing compared to what was coming. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "should we respond?" "Not yet," Jake replied. "First, we need to talk to the people who've been preparing for this day." Captain Steve Bennett arrived at the emergency meeting looking tired but determined. He ran Earth's Planetary Defense Initiative, something most people thought was just a fancy name for tracking asteroids. Jake knew better. Steve had been building something much bigger for the past 30 years. Dr. Lisa Parker came in right behind Steve. She was small and looked like a typical scientist, but Jake knew she was one of the smartest people alive. Her official job was running research on new energy sources. Her real job was much more interesting. "So they finally came," Steve said, sitting down at the conference table. "Just like we always said they would. The Korathi Empire," Jake said. "Over 200 warships. They gave us 3 days to surrender." Lisa smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. 3 days? That's generous. Most species probably gave up in 3 hours. "What do we have?" Jake asked. This was the question that mattered. Everyone knew Earth had a space program, but these two had been working on something else entirely. Steve pulled out a tablet and started showing pictures. "Remember all those asteroid mining operations? The ones that seemed to take forever and cost too much money?" Jake nodded. Politicians had complained about them for years. "They weren't just mining," Steve continued. "We've been building defense stations inside the biggest asteroids, Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, and about 50 smaller ones. Each one has enough firepower to destroy a city." Lisa took over. "And the Tesla defense grid isn't just a power project. We've got fusion reactors feeding electromagnetic railguns that can shoot projectiles at 12% of light speed. The aliens won't see them coming until it's too late." Jake felt hope rising in his chest. "What about the moon bases?" "Luna Base Alpha is just the public face," Steve said. "We've got military installations all over the far side of the moon. Weapons that make nuclear bombs look like firecrackers." The aliens studied us," Lisa added, "but they only saw what we wanted them to see. They think we're still using chemical rockets and primitive computers. They have no idea what we've really been building." Jake thought about all the times politicians had complained about space spending. All the times people said money should be spent on Earth instead of space exploration. None of them knew the truth. Earth had been preparing for war among the stars for decades. "How did you know?" Jake asked. "How did you know they were coming?" Steve and Lisa looked at each other. "We've been picking up signals for 40 years, Steve said. Radio transmissions from star systems that went quiet, patterns that suggested something was moving from planet to planet, conquering everything in its path. We knew they would come for Earth eventually," Lisa said. "It was just a matter of when." The meeting went on for hours. Jake learned about weapons hidden in places he'd never imagined. Solar collection arrays near Mercury that could focus enough energy to melt mountains. Gravity manipulation devices that could tear apart spaceships at the molecular level. AI-controlled drones hidden in the gas giants' moons. When the meeting ended, Jake felt different. Humanity wasn't helpless. They weren't going to be easy prey for the Karathi Empire. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought they were attacking a primitive world, defended by chemical rockets and brave but doomed astronauts. Instead, they were about to attack a fortress that had been preparing for their arrival for 30 years. Jake walked back to his command center with new confidence. Let the Karathi come. Let them bring their 200 warships and their threats. They were about to learn that humans had been studying war a lot longer than they'd been studying spaceflight. Amy looked up when he entered. "Sir, should we respond to their message?" Jake smiled. "Not yet, Lieutenant. Let them get a little closer first. I want them to be surprised." Admiral Vextar stood on the command deck of his flagship, looking at the blue and green planet on the screen. Earth looked so small and peaceful from this distance. He had conquered 17 worlds in his long career, and this one would be the easiest yet. "Status report," he ordered his tactical officer. "All ships are in formation, Admiral. We are 3 days out from the target planet. Their response time to our surrender demand was typical for primitive species." Vextar nodded. "What did they say?" "Nothing yet, sir. Most species need time to accept their fate. The humans will surrender once they see our full power." The Admiral walked to the tactical display. 212 Karathi warships moved steadily toward Earth. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a continent. The humans had maybe 50 small spacecraft, none of them armed with anything more dangerous than mining equipment. "What do we know about their defenses?" Vextar asked. His intelligence officer pulled up a holographic display. "Very primitive, Admiral. They have chemical rockets that take days to reach their own moon. A few space stations with basic life support. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles and simple explosives. Nothing that can threaten us." Vextar had studied the humans for years through long-range sensors and intercepted communications. They were a young species, barely able to leave their home planet. Their technology was at least 500 years behind Karathi standards. They broadcast entertainment signals into space, the intelligence officer continued. "We analyzed their fictional stories about space warfare. Very unrealistic. They think battles happen at close range with visible energy beams. They have no understanding of real combat." The Admiral laughed. Human fiction showed spaceships flying close together, exchanging fire like ancient sea battles. Real space warfare happened across millions of miles, with weapons moving too fast to see. The humans would never know what hit them. On the far side of the solar system, Colonel Danny Wright sat in the command center of Defense Station Series 1. To any outside observer, it looked like a boring asteroid mining facility. The Karathi had watched it for years and dismissed it as harmless industrial equipment. They were wrong. Danny looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet. "How long until they cross the Mars orbital line?" 18 hours, sir," replied Major Kate Sullivan. She was Jake Sullivan's sister, but Danny knew her as one of the best tactical officers in the hidden fleet. "All defense stations report ready." Danny nodded. The Karathi had no idea what they were flying into. While they had been watching Earth's public space program, humanity had been building the largest military installation in history. Every asteroid mining operation, every scientific research station, every routine cargo run had been cover for 30 years of secret construction. "Status on the Luna installations?" Danny asked. "Major Kate's people are ready," came the reply. The far side of the moon has 47 hidden weapon platforms. The alien sensors can't detect them because they're looking at the wrong side. Kate smiled grimly. The Karathi think the moon is just a dead rock. They have no idea we've been building inside it for 20 years. On his flagship, Admiral Vextar reviewed the attack plan one more time. It was simple, like all his previous conquests. First, destroy any orbital installations around the planet. Second, demonstrate power by destroying one major city. Third, demand surrender again. Fourth, systematically destroy population centers until the species submitted. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, we're detecting some unusual readings from the asteroid belt. Vextar walked over to look at the displays. What kind of readings? Power signatures, sir. Much higher than we would expect from mining. Equipment, but our analysis says they're just industrial fusion reactors. Nothing military. The Admiral studied the data. The humans did seem to use more powerful reactors than most primitive species, but that made sense. They were an aggressive species that consumed a lot of energy. Still, the power levels were surprisingly high. Keep monitoring, he ordered. But don't worry about it. Industrial equipment can't threaten warships. Commander Ryan Foster adjusted his uniform and looked around the bridge of Defense Station Valkyrie 7. For 15 years, his station had pretended to be a deep space research facility studying cosmic radiation. The Karathi had observed it countless times and never realized it was actually a fortress. Weapon status? Ryan asked. All systems green, sir, his weapons officer replied. Particle beam arrays are charged and ready. Antimatter warheads are armed. Electromagnetic railguns have been loaded with tungsten-jacketed penetrator rounds. Ryan nodded. The aliens were about to learn that humans had been preparing for this day since before they were born. Every piece of technology, every weapon, system, every defensive installation had been designed with one goal in mind: stop an alien invasion before it could reach Earth. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a message from Admiral Vextar. He's demanding our surrender. Ryan almost laughed. The alien admiral was talking to the wrong person. Send a reply. Tell him we're just a research station, studying space dust. Act confused and scared. The message went out on standard frequencies. To the Karathi, it would look like frightened scientists trying to avoid notice. They had no idea they were talking to one of humanity's most advanced military commanders. Back on the Karathi flagship, Admiral Vexitar received the human response. The message was exactly what he expected: confused babbling from scientists who didn't understand what was happening. Typical, he said to his staff. They still think this is some kind of misunderstanding. They believe if they act harmless enough, we'll leave them alone. His tactical officer brought up the final approach plan. Admiral, we'll reach effective weapons range in 16 hours. Should we begin broadcasting surrender demands? No, Vextar decided. Let them think they have more time. The shock will be greater when we begin the attack. The Admiral looked at Earth on his screen one more time. Such a pretty planet. It would be a shame to damage it too badly. But the humans needed to learn their place in the galaxy. After they surrendered, they would make excellent slaves for the Karathi Empire. He had no idea that every human military installation in the solar system was tracking his fleet. He didn't know that weapons more powerful than anything in Karathi space were already aimed at his ships. He couldn't imagine that the primitive species he planned to conquer had been preparing for this battle for 30 years. Admiral Vextar was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. The Karathi fleet crossed the Mars orbital line at exactly 1432 Earth Standard Time. Admiral Vextar watched the tactical display with satisfaction. His ships were in perfect formation, ready to demonstrate the power of the Karathi Empire to another primitive world. All ships report ready for combat operations, his tactical officer announced. Shall we begin the demonstration, Admiral? Vexitar nodded. Target their largest orbital installation first. One clean shot should make them understand. At that exact moment, Captain Ben Murphy pressed a single button inside Asteroid Ceres. The asteroid had been hollowed out over 15 years, filled with weapons that the Karathi had never imagined. The mining equipment they had observed was real, but it was only the cover story. "Fire," Ben said quietly into his microphone. 12 electromagnetic railguns hidden inside Ceres fired simultaneously. The tungsten-jacketed uranium slugs left the asteroid at 12% of light speed. They were invisible to normal sensors, moving too fast for the eye to see, and packed with enough kinetic energy to punch through a mountain. The first Karathi ship exploded before Admiral Vextar even realized he was under attack. The projectile hit the ship's main reactor and turned the entire vessel into a ball of plasma. The second ship lasted 3 seconds longer before another slug tore through its hull from nose to tail. "What was that?" Vextar shouted, staring at his tactical display. 2 of his ships had just vanished from the screen. "Unknown weapons fire, Admiral," his sensor officer replied, his voice shaking. "I can't identify the source." Before Vextar could respond, 10 more ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The projectiles were coming from multiple directions, but his sensors couldn't track them. They were too fast, too small, and moving at speeds that Karathi technology couldn't measure. "Shields up," Vexitar ordered. "Return fire." His ships raised their energy barriers and began shooting plasma bolts in all directions. The weapons lit up space with green and blue energy, but they were firing at nothing. The humans weren't using energy weapons that could be seen or tracked. Colonel Danny Wright watched the battle from his command center inside Ceres. First wave successful. 12 enemy ships destroyed. Asteroid belt stations report ready for second wave. Major Kate Sullivan announced from her position on the moon. "The aliens are firing randomly. They can't find our gun positions." Danny smiled grimly. The Karathi were used to fighting enemies who used the same technology they did: energy weapons, plasma shields, and close-range combat. They had never faced an enemy that turned physics into a weapon. "Begin second wave," Danny ordered. "Target their command ships." More railguns fired from hidden positions throughout the asteroid belt. What the Karathi had thought were simple mining stations revealed themselves as fortress installations. Vesta Station launched armor-piercing rounds that tore through alien hulls like paper. Pallas Station fired explosive shells that detonated inside enemy ships. Dozens of smaller asteroids that had seemed harmless suddenly became deadly weapons. Platforms. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his fleet began to fall apart. In less than 5 minutes, he had lost 37 ships. His weapons couldn't hit targets he couldn't see, and his shields were useless against solid projectiles, moving at incredible speeds. "Admiral, we need to retreat," his tactical officer said urgently. "We're being destroyed by an enemy we can't fight." "Impossible," Vexitar snapped. "These are primitive humans. They don't have this kind of technology." Another wave of invisible death swept through his fleet. 15 more ships disappeared in balls of fire and twisted metal. The humans weren't just winning, they were slaughtering his forces without taking a single loss. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Mitchell activated the second phase of Earth's defense plan from her command center in Colorado. Mercury solar arrays are online, initiating focused energy strike. Near the sun, massive solar collection arrays that the Karathi had dismissed as power generation stations suddenly revealed their true purpose. They focused the sun's energy through a network of orbital mirrors, creating a beam of concentrated starlight that could melt steel from millions of miles away. The beam struck a Karathi cruiser and cut it in half like a knife through butter. The ship's hull glowed white-hot for a moment before the entire vessel exploded. The energy weapon could fire continuously as long as the sun was shining. "Second energy beam ready," Sarah announced, targeting their flagship. Admiral Vextar saw the warning indicators light up on his ship's control panels. Something was painting his vessel with massive amounts of energy. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "Full power to engines." His flagship turned hard to the left, but the beam of focused sunlight followed it like a spotlight. The outer hull began to glow as the ship's heat dissipation system struggled to cope with the incoming energy. "Hull temperature rising beyond safe limits," his engineering officer reported. "We need to get out of that beam or we'll be cooked alive." Commander Ryan Foster watched the battle from Defense Station Valkyrie 7. His weapons hadn't fired yet, but he could see the Karathi fleet beginning to break formation. They were trying to retreat, but they were moving too slowly. "Activate particle beam arrays," Ryan ordered. "Let's show them what real energy weapons look like." Valkyrie 7 had been designed to look like a harmless research station, but it carried some of humanity's most advanced weapons. The particle beam arrays could accelerate subatomic particles to near light speed and fire them in concentrated streams that could tear apart molecular bonds. The first particle beam hit a Karathi destroyer and simply erased it from existence. The ship didn't explode, it just stopped being there. The second beam caught a heavy cruiser and watched it dissolve like sugar in hot water. Admiral Vexitar realized that everything he thought he knew about humans was wrong. They weren't primitive, they weren't helpless. They were the most dangerous species he had ever encountered. "Full retreat," he ordered. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace. We're leaving this system now." But even as his surviving ships tried to escape, more human weapons revealed themselves. The Jupiter research stations launched swarms of hunter-killer drones. The Saturn monitoring posts activated electromagnetic pulse generators that disabled entire squadrons. Every piece of human space infrastructure that the Karathi had observed and dismissed as harmless was actually a weapon of war. In less than 30 minutes, Admiral Vexitar's invasion fleet of 212 ships had been reduced to fewer than 50. The humans had turned their entire solar system into a killing field, and the Karathi had flown straight into it. The Great Conquest had become a massacre, and they weren't even close to Earth yet. The surviving Karathi ships tried to run, but running in space was not easy. Their engines were powerful, but they needed time to build up speed. Time they did not have. General Chris Adams sat in his underground command center beneath the Colorado mountains. He had been waiting for this moment his entire career. Every screen around him showed the battle happening throughout the solar system. The aliens were retreating, but the fight was far from over. "All stations, this is Command Center Alpha," Chris spoke into his microphone. "The enemy is attempting to escape. Begin Operation Cleanup. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth." Around Jupiter, the research stations that had been studying the gas giant's atmosphere for 20 years suddenly opened their hidden launch bays. Thousands of small objects shot out into space, moving fast and changing direction unpredictably. Admiral Vexitar watched his sensors with growing terror. "What are those things?" "Small craft, Admiral," his tactical officer replied. "Moving at high speed toward our position. They appear to be unmanned." The objects were AI-controlled hunter-killer drones, each one about the size of a car, but packed with explosives and guidance systems. They had been designed by humans who had studied every space battle in their history books and movies. The drones moved like angry wasps, swarming around the larger Karathi ships. "Point defense systems, open fire," Vexitar ordered. His ships began shooting at the small drones with rapid-fire energy weapons. They hit many of them, but there were too many to stop. For every drone they destroyed, 10 more kept coming. The first drone hit a Karathi cruiser and exploded, tearing a hole in the ship's side. The second drone flew right through the hole and exploded inside the ship, causing massive internal damage. Within minutes, the cruiser was dead in space. Lieutenant Commander Alex Thompson watched the drone attack from his hidden command ship near Europa. His vessel looked like a simple cargo hauler, but it was actually the command center for a squadron of experimental combat ships. "Alpha Squadron, prepare for attack run," Alex said into his communications system. "Remember, these ships are big and slow. Hit them hard and fast, then get out before they can respond." Alex's ships were small and fast, designed to fight much larger enemies. Each one carried weapons that could punch holes in starship hulls, and engines that could outrun anything the Karathi had. They had been built using lessons learned from studying Earth's history of naval warfare. The human ships came out of hiding behind Jupiter's moons, moving fast and staying in formation. They approached the Karathi fleet from multiple directions, making it impossible for the aliens to concentrate their fire. "Target their engines," Alex ordered. "Cripple them so they can't escape." The human ships fired focused particle beams at the Karathi vessel's engine sections. The beams cut through armor and destroyed critical systems. Ship after ship found itself unable to move, floating helplessly in space while the human forces closed in. Admiral Vextar realized that his retreat was failing. The humans were not just defending their home. They were hunting his fleet like predators chasing wounded prey. "How many ships do we have left?" 37, Admiral, came the grim reply, and most of those are damaged. At Saturn, Dr. Nathan Clark activated humanity's most secret weapon. For 15 years, he had been working on something that most scientists said was impossible, a device that could manipulate gravity itself. The weapon looked like a simple research station orbiting Saturn, studying the planet's rings. But hidden inside were gravity generators that could create artificial black holes, bend space-time, and tear apart matter at the molecular level. Nathan targeted the largest remaining Karathi ship, a massive battlecruiser that was trying to rally the surviving fleet. "Activating gravity manipulator," he announced. "Target locked." The weapon fired, but there was nothing to see. Gravity was invisible, but its effects were not. The Karathi battlecruiser began to stretch and twist as the artificial gravity field grabbed it. The ship's hull groaned and bent as forces stronger than anything in nature pulled it apart. "What is happening to our ship?" screamed the battlecruiser's captain over the radio. The answer came as the ship tore itself apart. The gravity weapon had created a small black hole that lasted only a few seconds, but that was enough. When it disappeared, there was nothing left of the battlecruiser except floating debris. Admiral Vextar stared at his screens in complete horror. "Impossible. No species has gravity weapons. That technology doesn't exist." But the humans had it, and they were using it to destroy his fleet ship by ship. Every piece of technology the Karathi thought was impossible, the humans had built and hidden throughout their solar system. "Admiral," his communications officer said urgently, "we're receiving a message from the human command center." General Chris Adams appeared on the Karathi flagship's main screen. He looked calm and confident, like a man who had just won a chess match. "Admiral Vextar, this is General Adams of the Human Defense Force. Your invasion has failed." Vextar found his voice. "How? How did a primitive species build such weapons?" Chris smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Primitive? Admiral, your people have been watching us for 40 years. You saw our public space program and thought that was all we had. You made the mistake of judging us by what we showed you, not by what we were capable of. You've been preparing for this," Vextar realized. "For 30 years, Chris confirmed. "Ever since we detected your scout ships. We knew someone was out there, studying us, probably planning to attack us. So we prepared. We built weapons. We trained soldiers. We turned our entire solar system into a fortress." Around the remaining Karathi ships, more human vessels appeared. They had been hiding everywhere, behind asteroids, inside the gas giants' moons, disguised as civilian ships. The humans had been ready for war while pretending to be peaceful. "What do you want?" Vextar asked. "Leave," Chris said simply. "Take your remaining ships and go home. Tell your empire that Earth is not a target. Tell them that humans are not prey. Tell them that if they come here again, none of them will leave alive." Vextar looked at his tactical display. He had started this invasion with 212 ships. Now he had 23 ships left, most of them damaged. The humans had destroyed his entire fleet without losing a single major installation. "Understood," he said quietly. "We are leaving your system now." "Good," Chris replied. "And Admiral, we'll be watching. If any Karathi ship ever enters our solar system again, we'll consider it an act of war." The screen went dark, leaving Vextar alone with his shame and his fears. He had come to conquer a primitive world, and instead had found the most dangerous military force he had ever encountered. The great Karathi Empire had been defeated by humans who had been pretending to be weak while secretly preparing for war. Admiral Vextar's surviving ships limped away from the solar system like wounded animals. Of the mighty fleet that had entered human space with such confidence, only 23 ships remained. Most of them were badly damaged and barely able to fly. The Admiral sat in his command chair, staring at nothing. In 40 years of military service, he had never experienced such a complete defeat. The humans had not just won, They had made his entire fleet look like children playing with toys. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving long-range signals from other Karathi fleets. They're asking for status reports." Vextar closed his eyes. Soon, word would spread throughout the galaxy. The great Karathi Empire, conquerors of 17 worlds, had been crushed by a species that most of the galaxy considered primitive. "Send the report," he said finally. "Tell them the truth. The humans are not what they appear to be." Back in the solar system, Commander Jake Sullivan walked through the Sol Defense Force Command Center. The screens that had shown red enemy contacts now displayed only empty space. The invasion was over, and humanity had won without losing a single ship. "Casualty report?" Jake asked. "Zero human casualties, sir," Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez replied. "Some of our outer defense stations took minor damage, but no injuries or deaths." Jake nodded, but he felt no celebration. This victory had come at a price. Earth's greatest secret was now revealed. For 30 years, humanity had hidden its true military power. Now the galaxy would know what humans were really capable of. Dr. Lisa Parker arrived at the command center carrying a thick folder of papers. She looked tired, but satisfied. "The weapon systems performed better than expected," she announced. "All platforms operated within normal parameters." "What about the gravity manipulators?" Jake asked. "Perfect results. Dr. Clark's team proved that the technology works in real combat conditions. We can control gravity itself now." Captain Steve Bennett joined them, fresh from coordinating the cleanup operations. "All defense stations report ready for immediate action. If any other alien fleet shows up, we can handle them too." Jake looked at the main display screen, which now showed a peaceful solar system. Jupiter's moons had returned to their normal research activities. The asteroid belt looked quiet and harmless again. Saturn's rings sparkled in the distant sunlight. No one, looking at the system, would guess it was the most heavily armed fortress in the galaxy. "What happens now?" Amy asked. "Now we wait," Jake replied. "Word will spread about what happened here. Other species will hear about it. Some will be afraid of us. Some will want to be our allies. Some will want to test us." President Ellen Hayes stood before the joint session of the world government in New York. For the first time in 30 years, she was going to tell the truth about Earth's secret military programs. "Fellow citizens of Earth," she began, "yesterday, our world was attacked by an alien invasion force. Today I can announce that the invasion has been completely defeated." The assembly hall erupted in shocked murmurs. Most of the representatives had not known about the alien threat or the hidden defense systems. "For 3 decades, the president continued, our military and scientific communities have been preparing for this day. While the public saw a peaceful space exploration program, our real efforts were focused on defending our home." She activated a holographic display showing the battle. The Karathi Empire sent over 200 warships to conquer Earth. They expected to find a primitive world defended by simple rockets and brave but outmatched astronauts. The hologram showed the alien fleet being systematically destroyed by weapons that seemed to come from nowhere. Instead, they found a fortress world defended by the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. "Our scientists and engineers spent 30 years building weapons that the aliens couldn't even imagine." President Hayes looked around the assembly hall. "The age of secrecy is over. The galaxy now knows that Earth is defended by humans who have turned warfare into a science. We are no longer hiding our capabilities." 6 months later, deep space monitoring stations detected new signals approaching the solar system. But these were not invasion fleets. They were diplomatic ships from species that had heard about humanity's victory over the Karathi. Captain Maria Santos sat in the bridge of the pursuit vessel Independence, which had been following the retreating Karathi ships at a safe distance. Her mission was to gather intelligence about alien technology and make sure word of Earth's military power spread to other species. "Captain," her intelligence officer reported, "we're detecting transmissions from multiple star systems. The news is spreading faster than we expected." Maria smiled. "What are they saying?" "Mixed reactions, Captain. Some species are expressing interest in diplomatic contact. Others are warning their neighbors to avoid human space entirely. The Karathi Empire has officially declared our solar system a forbidden zone. Good, Maria said. That was the plan. The Independents had collected detailed information about Karathi technology, battle tactics, and fleet organization. More importantly, they had recorded the aliens' complete shock and terror when they realized what they were facing. Lieutenant Commander Alex Thompson returned to his base near Europa with his squadron of experimental combat ships. The battle had proven that human military doctrine worked perfectly against alien forces. "How did we do it?" asked one of his younger pilots. "How did we beat them so easily?" Alex thought about the question. "We did what humans always do. We studied the problem, we prepared for every possibility, and we built tools to solve it." The aliens thought they were fighting a primitive species. They didn't realize they were fighting a species that had been preparing for war since before they discovered fire. Dr. Nathan Clark shut down his gravity manipulation weapon and began preparing his report. The technology had worked perfectly, but he knew it was just the beginning. Humanity would need even more advanced weapons for the challenges ahead. "What are you thinking about?" asked his assistant. "The future," Nathan replied. "We won this battle, but word is spreading through the galaxy. Other species will hear about us. Some will be curious, some will be friendly, but some will see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated." "Are you worried?" Nathan smiled. "No, I'm excited. We've had 30 years to prepare for one invasion. Now we'll have time to prepare for whatever comes next." Commander Jake Sullivan stood on the observation deck of Luna Base Alpha, looking at Earth. The blue and green planet looked the same as always, but everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they were no longer hiding. The galaxy now knew that Earth was defended by a species that had turned their entire solar system into a weapon. The humans had earned their place among the stars not through peaceful exploration, but through superior preparation and overwhelming firepower. Jake smiled as he watched the sun rise over Earth's horizon. Let the galaxy come. Humanity was ready for whatever happened next. The age of hiding was over. The age of humanity had begun.